Hello Capricorn friends, I'm Annie Botticelli and welcome to my Capricorn November 2024 Astrology Horoscope forecast. I am celebrating with you as someone who has many Cap placements that Pluto is finally leaving Capricorn for 248 years. Yes, so once Capricorn leaves November 20th, we are not going to have Pluto in our sign for almost 250 years. So unless you're an elf, you're not going to have to be worried about this forever. So we will talk about that. That is the big event, but we have so many other things to discuss that will be front and center this month that will actually, be more in your face in some ways than this very, very big end of an era. If you're listening to the podcast version, I put the chart as the thumbnail. If you're listening or watching on YouTube, I will be working on the chart. If you want to see the chart, come on over to YouTube. If you don't want to see the chart, you can listen to the podcast version. There are so many reasons to smile this month. I'm going to go through a little checklist of some general things that are really important to know because they set the whole basis for how this month will be. The first thing to know is, well, this is along the lines of having relief, is that we're out of the heat of eclipse season. So yay, a big check for that. Eclipse season was strongest in September and October, and those months were big doozies. Not only was October an eclipse month, also in an angle that was stressed for Cappies. Also, October had a massive amount of aspects, and most of them were salty. So, it was definitely a challenging month. And so we're celebrating having fewer aspects or planetary meetings this month. And that of those planetary meetings, although for the fourth month in a row, we do have an annoying imbalance of salty aspects compared to sweet, we still have less stressful aspects than October, and we do have 7 sweet aspects to counterbalance the nuisance. Oh, one thing I didn't mention that I wanted to. This is for you if Capricorn is your sun sign, your moon sign, your rising sign, or any other Cap placement that you're watching for. This is going to be for you. This will be part of your astrological picture. I have my Venus in Cap. I have my midheaven in Cap. I have my moon in Cap. So I am there with you. Whatever is happening here is happening for me too. Okay, so the big check, because there are fewer aspects this month, that means it's less astrologically busy. That means it's more of a chill time. We are out of the big intensity of the eclipse season. Most of the news, if not all of it, will have already been delivered. And while we may still see some news and events that are eclipse related or a carryover of the things that happened, for the most part, things will start to settle down. Your nervous system can start to settle down. It won't feel quite as much like you have your finger stuck in an electric socket. So that's really exciting. The next very exciting thing is that we actually have a very early Sagittarius party. And the reason why I'm counting that as celebratory is because Sagittarius brings optimism, expansion, excitement, enthusiasm, adventure, and so when that comes, right, that brightens the mood. Generally, this is a Scorpio-dominated month, and we are still going to see energies of Scorpio, and we will talk about that. We will have the sun there until November 23rd. Mercury will be there just for the first few days of the month. We will have the new moon there on November 1st at 9 degrees. So there is a lot of energy in Scorpio, but there's not nearly as much energy in Scorpio as there is going to be in Sagittarius. So Mercury will get there very quickly. It will go retrograde in Sag. Venus will be there. Pallas Athena is there. And the sun will get there on November 23rd. Okay, so it is a very Sagittarius dominated month in a time when Scorpio usually dominates. So let's talk about the implications of that. The Scorpio side of things is going to still bring emotion, deep emotion, for better and worse. Now, in general, that makes a nice angle for Capricorn. And this can tend to lend itself to a lot of good business information coming in, important negotiations. Scorpio rules birth, death, transformation, rebirth, same things ruled by Pluto, which we'll talk about more later when we talk about Pluto exiting Capricorn. But it's just that very powerful energy that can be very intense and very emotional. So it will be lighter because there's not as much of it, but it will be present. So look for important interactions, blessed meetings, blessed discussions, and strategizing. But do remember that we are in a double retro personal planet time. We've got Mercury and Mars deepening the retrograde story. I will also get to those details, but I'm referring to it now because it's relevant with the Scorpio things. So these dealings, these money things, these intimacy things, these deep sharings, these spiritual and psychological breakthroughs may have a strong tilt to the past. And the more you go inward and backward, the more you will be aligning with the natural rhythms of the universe. This is for sure a time to be on the shore and watch as the water, the tides, bring things to you. This is the time this month to be the spider and let the webs that you've woven before catch things for you instead of trying to conjure. You can actively do things, but they're not going to be the types of things where you're pushing and forcing and trying to launch big things and trying to get everything out there because the tides are going in. So everything you try to push out will come back to you. And that could be good. Like, let's say you want to run a promotion. Retrogrades are awesome for that. Going back to people you already sell things to, your contacts in the past, and giving them something that's a short-term promotion. Those kind of things are great. Anything that's short-term, experimental, low stakes or high stakes, but low downside. Those are the kind of things that are great this month. All right, I'm going to get back to the Scorpio story, but while we're on the retrograde subject, I feel like it will be a good idea for me to give you the dates. So November 8th, we start the Mercury pre-retrograde shadow period. I'll talk about more of the implications here. I just want to set the stage for the dates. Then November 25th, we actually start the official retrograde. That will go until December 14th. And then the post-shadow transit will go until January 3rd. So all of November and December are in retrograde season. Now, if you're listening to this early, either because you've subscribed to my Secret Star Portal and you all get it super early, or if you are in my free VIP community at AnnieHelpsYou.com and you get them a week or two early, or you just happen to catch this before November 8th, then it's a good idea to do your holiday shopping early, okay? Because trying to shop during retrograde is really tough. So, a word to the wise hopefully is sufficient there. But if you're listening to this early, it would be good to get those things as much dealt with as possible, so you don't have to deal with the typical retrograde stuff of things showing up broken, things not showing up at all, people not liking them, something being short term about a gift you give that's intended to be long term. So Mercury retrograde, biggest thing to know there, schedules will be tested. Anything that's set will be questioned. And it's really hard to schedule anything. So if you leave yourself open for last minute magic, which is what I like to call what can happen in the retrograde time, things tend to just spring upon you. Like, hey, you want to go to this concert? Hey, you want to go on this trip? And if you leave yourself as unscheduled as possible, it may be easier to say yes. Plus, the more you schedule this month, the more you'll be on the phone with people trying to reschedule. And that's almost a promise because that's just a thing that happens in Mercury retrograde. Okay, so I may as well give you the Mars retrograde dates too while we're retroing out here. The pre-Mercury retrograde shadow transit period started October 6th. And then every day until December 6th, including the time where we are now, all of November, we get deeper and deeper into Mars retrograde web. And then Mars stays retrograde until February 25th. And then when it goes direct, there's still some months of its post-shadow transit period. This is a long one, and we do have a very retrograde next year. So basically that means we're all going to be the earthworm and going back over everything with a fine-tooth comb, everything from the past, redoing, diving deep into things, research, education, studying. These retrogrades are amazing for studying. They're amazing for staycations or surprise like vacations. And really, Mars retrograde is fine for travel the whole time. It doesn't rule travel the way Mercury does. But even Mercury retrograde, you can have some epic trips when Mercury's in retrograde, so don't let anyone tell you otherwise. However, there can be a lot more mishaps and there can be a lot more things you need to be flexible for. So if you have a very regimented travel style, it may be a little bit difficult because the things you set will probably not stay the way that you plan them. And if that will be stressful to you, then you will be feeling that. But if you're a casual traveler and you're feeling these Sag energies that I was talking about really dominating this month, you could really have a great time. So international trips, anything having to do with immigration or international business is definitely going to be coming up. there. And then the retrogrades can help you to go back to some place either that you've always wanted to go to, that you've been trying to go to, or that you've been to before. So back to the Scorpio story here. So now, knowing all of this, you can see how the financial dealings, the emotional connections, all of these things will tilt towards the past. Old things not worked out in your relationship, that can come up. Mars is going to get into fiery Leo very, very soon. And that's going to put it in a different element than is natural for you as a Cappy, or us as Cappies. So you'll be feeling that. And Mars will move through the 8th house, which rules Scorpio, and Mars co-rules Scorpio. So this is a kind of has some sneaky Scorpio in this month as well from these perspectives, especially for Capricorn. But being the earthworm makes you go over and over soil. So if you think about what an earthworm does, it eats soil in the front and then puts it out the back, and that cycle keeps happening. And so it just is reworking the same soil. So if you put one of them in a pot, they will make all of your soil great in the pot, and that's where they like to hang out. So it's perfect. So if you can kind of just imagine yourself as that earthworm this month and beyond, that you're fine-tuning things, you're, getting things ready for a more distant future when you may launch, you're, perfecting things, you're getting better at them, you're, going deeper into the experience of them. That's going to be, really good from the Mars perspective for this month. From the Mercury perspective, it rules things very short term and very experimental. So, trying things on with low stakes. Those are all going to do well this month. And talks of wills and inheritances and sweepstakes and lotto and taxes and credit cards and, spiritual breakthroughs and psychological breakthroughs and mysteries. All of that is going to be coming up from all of the Scorpio elements. For Capricorn, Scorpio moves to the 11th house of friendships and groups and teamwork. So you may find that some connections that you have in your group, in your social circles, online or otherwise, may deepen. And you may have some very key people come back to you from the past and turn up in a different context. Like maybe you met someone as a business, contact, and then now they come back as a friend or as a romantic option, or, or vice versa, any of these things. Things coming back from the past in groups and in intimate and financial dealings and connections. Now, in general, Mercury retrograde is not the best time to sign things because you usually don't have the full story. Now, I know that I said, if you've been watching my reports, that the open window free from personal planet retrogrades and their shadow periods ends October 7th, and that is true. But from the contractual standpoint, you really have until November 7th, before we start getting into the mercurial part of the retrograde. And, Mars doesn't really rule contracts. But what it does rule is the oomph it takes to follow through with what you agree to. So you just have to be sure that you're not overpromising, or that you're not as attached to someone who may be overpromising something to you and not delivering. That's the thing to be aware of when you do contracts in Mars shadow period. As the Sag party deepens, then that accentuates Capricorn's 12th house. So there are going to be a lot of things for all the busyness and extroversion that the Sag energies may bring. The Scorpio element and this Pisces element that is really, really lit up at this time with the Sagittarius placements, that's going to bring you into more of a quiet space, more of an intimate space, maybe, interactions and adventures with some people close to you, things in the backdrop, maybe you're like holing up and studying. 12th house is very much about kind of some solitary activities. And so maybe you're going on an adventure alone, or maybe you're going, into your studio and coming out with something great. But it definitely rules this quiet personal time and these quiet personal pursuits. So you may find this month is going to be speckled with these opportunities for your own time, which you may have to carve out and make, time with others close to you, and kind of more gregarious Sagittarius busyness. Sagittarius energy is also super communicative, and the Pisces and the Scorpio energies are not. So you may see this flow of like chatty, having to interact, do all this stuff, and then quiet and rest, and that's going to help you have a good balance for the month. And if anything, that is something else to celebrate. We'll give that a check mark this month, is that Scorpio months can tend to be over emotional. Saggy months can tend to be over excitable. And when you combine those two, you can make steam, the fire and the water. can make steam to be very productive, and can also balance each other out from either of the extremes. I want to talk about some more moon dates. Now, do know that every month I do these reports, I always give you dates to note because that is fun and relevant, but I don't give you as nearly as many dates to note in these reports as I do when you sign up for my free email newsletter. So I'm just going to give you instructions on how to do that, and then I'll go back to give you some dates. So anniehelpsyou.com, put your name and email address, click receive, get the welcome letter in your inbox or spam, wherever you find it, move it to your inbox, click on the archive, and then put in the archive search November 2024 astrology. And that will bring you to my very in-depth write-up for the month with all of my favorite dates, the dates to be awareful and careful of. If you're trying to do something important and you're trying to match the energies to transits, we do have 7 beautiful aspects this month. I outline some of them. I give you the dates for all of them, so you can see all that there. And if you're just chilling as a spider in your web or on the shore waiting to see what the tides bring you, then you'll know more the dates around which notable things may happen. But let's talk about some of those dates now. So I already told you November 1st is that 9-degree Scorpio new moon. Now, everybody can get the goodies from that. This is fully available for every zodiac member, every Capricorn, to have goodies there. But those of you who are in the early, those of you will say like December 25th through January 5th and the closer to like December 31st, January 1st, the more you all may get a kiss from this, because the closer you are to 9 degrees, so like between 4 degrees and 14 degrees, and the closer you are to 9 degrees, you'll be in a mathematical configuration that may make the blessings from this more obvious. So the new beginnings can happen in these deep relationships and your financial experiences, or it can happen in the 11th house energies, because that's where it will be specifically for Cappies. So, your networking, your teams, your groups, your chance to lead within a team, or your chance to lend your genius to the greater good. Then we have the next date is November 15th. And remember that in different time zones, sometimes these dates can vary, a bit in one direction or the other. But roundabout this time, we've got the full moon at 24 degrees of Taurus. It's another supermoon. This is multiple supermoons that we've had in a row. It's very powerful. The moon is closer to the earth. It will look bigger. It will have a stronger gravitational pull. And, you may notice the effects from it because of that, being stronger. This is an earth moon. And this is a time that's immensely powerful for grounding and material manifestation, manifesting abundance and financial stability, engaging in grounding self-care practices, releasing stubborn areas that are stuck, letting the full moon elucidate areas that have been blocking you and keeping you in a holding pattern for a long time. Fullness, completion, fruition, drama coming to finances. Taurus rules the 2nd house, but it's going to happen in Capricorn's 5th house. We'll look at these different layers. Fullness, completion, fruition, drama, for better or worse, coming to money or material items or ecological projects, farming, gardening, anything that has to do with the earth and planting seeds and growing. And so maybe something that you've worked on in the past will just show up in a big way right now, or reach its culmination of some sort. The fullness, completion, fruition, drama from the perspective of Leo, because that's the 5th house is the Leo house. So for Cappies, that's where that full moon will be. Things coming to light in the area of romance, true love, children, your bucket list, things you've always wanted to do. So coupled with the Sagittarius energy and the bucket list energy, the adventure energy of Sag, maybe something is happening that you've always been wanting to do. And if it happens to be a trip, don't stress about it. Mercury, like I said, can be great for travel, but you just have to dot your I's and cross your T's more. It's more likely like for your gate to change at the last minute and you're on your phone and then all of a sudden you almost miss your plane when you've been sitting there for hours. You just have to watch out for that kind of stuff more. But that full moon is also going to be conjunct Uranus, which can add a lot of intensity and jolts for better or worse. And it can also bring a lot of genius. Uranus brings things out of the blue. And when you've got the energy of elucidation and things coming out of the blue, you could have amazing insights about your romantic life, about something involving your children or having children or conception. This would be amazing conception energy if you're trying to have a child. You know, all of this is very powerful, very sudden, very kind of, in some cases, out of the blue. And it has to do with your passions and your desires and, you know, the things that really just light you up, because the sun rules this, this fifth house. And that's the house that the full moon will be in for you. And before we move on to our big Pluto ending its Capricorn run discussion, I want to give you another date or series of dates. November 30th through December 1st, depending on your time zone, it's going to be one or the other. We have another new moon. So this is a new moon. It's Sag. It's 9 degrees of Sag. November 30th, if you're in the eastern or west of their time zone, it will actually be a black moon. Black moons have multiple definitions. One of them is second new moon in a calendar month. And so for those of you who are in the time zone where this will happen, that will be a black moon. So, you know, more introspection power, more seed planting power. There's just, you know, a little bit extra energy and power to this. Now, those of you who are east of the Eastern time zone, you'll actually have your black moon at the end of December. That Capricorn new moon, which will be December 30th, will be your second new moon. So everyone's going to get a black moon and some extra power here. It's just a matter of, you know, and this is kind of semantics because it's close either way, but it is worthy of mention because, you know, we don't have black moons that often. That Sag energy just plants more seeds for all the Saggy stuff we've been talking about with your adventures and your, you know, education and expansion and your horizons being broadened. And since it's happening in your 12th house of quiet places, maybe you'll have an armchair adventure, or maybe you'll go on a solo trip, or maybe you'll go deep into learning and just have kind of a quiet study party, or, you know, something like that. Okay, so now let's talk about this very, very major end of an era. Happy friends, since 2008, have we ever been going through it? Like, what? Ay, ay, ay. And the more Capricorn placements you have, the more this has been true. And the more that they've been spread out, the more, you know, this will be going on. When Pluto is crossing a point in your chart, it generally works in that realm for around 2 years as the most intense part. But the years before and after those 2 years are still, you know, it's very long transit is the point. So for your Cappy placements, and gosh, believe me, I know, because my moon is at 29 degrees. So for these recent years that Pluto's been dancing back and forth between 29 degrees, you know, and Aquarius, it's just rubbing on top of my moon and wreaking all kinds of havoc, giving me all kinds of amazing opportunities. So if you're a late degree friend and you've been getting worked here at this 29 degree point, wow, you're probably exhausted with me. But all Cappies have been going through it since 2008. That's when Pluto got into Capricorn. That's when the financial system started breaking down with the, you know, the fall of the housing market and the subprime loans that kind of toppled everything. And then we've been in a state of changing, you know, how we do business ever since. So coronavirus happened during this time. If you haven't watched if you can search for Annie Botticelli coronavirus, even though this was a while ago, this is really, really, really good video that I made on here, if I do say so myself. It really explains a lot of very important astrological factors as to what's gone on with the changes that we've had. You know, all of these things involving all of these Airbnbs taking over communities, the things going on with people working from home and that shifting all around. That seems to be associated with coronavirus, but it's really associated with the astrological factors that were behind everything, right? So this is a time when how we do business has dramatically changed since 2008. And now we're going to be going into a new time. And that's a whole other story. But what we need to know for our Cappy purposes is that Pluto is finally leaving Capricorn. So unless you're an elf, like I said before, which I am, of course, it's me, I'm an elf. So if you're an elf, you know, in a couple hundred years, you're going to have to go through this again. But if you're not, then you're not going to have to deal with it anymore, because Pluto has around a 248-year cycle. So it's not going to come back into Cappy for all that time. Pluto has the motto, grow or die. So that's part of why, even when Pluto wasn't hitting your exact Cappy placement, this story of the Cappy things No matter what your Capricorn placements, it gives you a strong element to your personality that is Capricornian. And Pluto exerting pressure on the Capricornian part of yourself to grow or die, has been making you have to go turbo since 2008. I mean, I know in that time, what I've created is like unbelievable. Like, what? But that's partly because I knew about this grow or die thing. So if you maybe didn't know that this meant this, but you've just been finding yourself pushing and pushing and pushing and just relentlessly not being able to get a break with your business, with your work, with your physical body, with your health, with your wellness, with your identity, with all of these things that would relate to the first house, because that's in the Capricorn chart that this has been going through your first house, and your relationship with yourself and healing your past. Now, things are going to shift. Where are they going to go now? We'll just talk about that briefly. Into money, Taurus energy, because Aquarius rules the Taurus house for Cappies. So now we're going to be focused a lot on money. But the things that we've had to focus on since 2008, you'll notice that some of those can just be behind you, where you can now, rest on your laurels a bit and enjoy the fruits of your labor. And, things that you went through, a lot of that you may just have to get some trauma clearing therapy to help you move forward from the things that happened in that time. But a lot of that's going to be behind us now. So I'm celebrating with you. Okay, so I've given you some dates to note for this month. If you want more dates because you want to see the sweet dates, the salty dates, when are the best days to do what? When are the best days to be awareful and careful of? Then go to anniehelpsyou.com, put your name and email address, and then click receive. And then you'll get into your inbox my welcome letter. In the archive, click on the archive link and put November 2024 astrology in the archive link, and that will bring you to my November write-up. Okay, so plus you'll get all kinds of goodies, and I'm always thinking of new ways to get goodies to my free VIP crew, which is what you become when you sign up there. You'll get my free 28-day, very comprehensive virtual coaching program for free. You'll get a Train Your Brain subliminal audio to relax and unwind to help you stay calm during tough astrological transits. You'll access my wonderland of astrology education to help you align with the natural rhythms of the month. I do send out monthly mini astrology lessons, and you do have access to all the archives as a member of my free VIP community. You also get access to my eclipse resource page to understand those cycles as they go through, and my health tips for the zodiac signs. So you just get so much. You can find it all in the welcome letter, so you can go there. Now on that same page, if you scroll down, you can access my secret star portal. This is where you will find my 2025 retrograde direct calendar for your planning, to know the open windows for next year, the times that will be much easier to push things out when the tides are going out. And if you want to learn astrology, I'm your girl. I've got a ton of free things. Obviously, if you're listening to my work, you see that I'm teaching for free online. But if you want a more structured system and you want to learn how to become a professional astrologer, either just to help yourself and your family and friends or to earn money, that is my area of expertise. I've been teaching astrology for 20 years. I've been a successful astrologer for 20 years. And also a successful online practitioner for a good bit of that time. And it all comes through in my Become a Professional Astrologer Mastery course. So you can click on Up Level there and see my basics course, or what you get that course for free when you join the Professional Astrology Certification course. I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.